Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, your income always goes back to the same financial set point? Well, in today's energy healing and frequency meditation, I'm going to help you shift that. Everyone, welcome back. My name is Zach Luz. For those of us that are new, today's energy healing and frequency meditation is going to be on your financial set point. So I'll talk a little bit about what patterns you have around a financial set point. I'll talk about why you took that pattern on, what you can do to shift it, and then I'll talk about what's going to happen as a result if you shift that pattern. For those of us that are new in these pick a readings, what I'm going to do is pop up a bunch of numbers on the screen, and then you can select one of the numbers that you're guided to pick, and then that's going to correspond with the reading that is specific for your group. So these are group readings, so they are going to be a little bit more generalized, but I think you're going to find a lot of benefit. So first what I'll do is I'll talk about the pattern, and then I'll help you with an energy healing that's basically going to adjust that pattern. And then as we shift your patterns on the inside, the outside is going to reflect those changes. So if you're curious about how any of this stuff works, you can have a listen to my podcast. I've got a bunch of stories all about how I came into this, but in these YouTube pick a healings, what I want to help you do is just shift the program so that you immediately start practically benefiting. So last thing I'll say is, please don't do these while you're driving. Although they look and sound and can feel a lot like a normal meditation, they're very different and they can be physically disorienting. So make sure you're not listening to this in the car. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pop the numbers up now. You can take a pick and I'll give you a second to do that. All right, I'm going to assume that you've made your selection by now. If you need more time, just go ahead and pause the video, and then you can go down to the timestamps below and you can fast forward to your specific reading. The last thing that's optional is you can stick around for the grounded meditation, which helps make this whole process less disorienting for you, as well as it makes it a little easier for me to read your patterns if you're located in one point in time and space. If you feel like sticking around for the grounding meditation, go ahead and do that, but it is optional. All right, so if you're ready for the grounding meditation, let's go ahead and get started and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold on the inhale. Release through the mouth. And then hold at the bottom of your breath again. Another inhale. And exhale. So go ahead and keep that breathing rhythm going. While you do that, I'm going to start generating frequencies that allow transformation to happen. If you're sensitive, you might feel it. If you're not so sensitive, you might not. It doesn't matter if you feel it or not. Either way, it works. Go ahead and take a deep breath and notice your feet flat on the floor. Visualizing a column going out the bottom of your spine down into the center of the earth. And on your next exhale, allowing all the things that no longer serve you, all of the limitations, standards, emotions, memories, pains, burdens, whatever, allowing that to all drain out down through your spine, down through a column, all the way down into the center of the earth. And then on your inhale, traveling up that column, back into the base of your spine. Noticing yourself starting to fill up. Starting from the base of your feet, your ankles, bottom part of your calves, working our way up the shins, into the knees, back of the leg, coming all the way here into the present moment. And then working our way up into the hip area. And lower torso to the intestines, stomach area, noticing our rib cage, wrapping all the way back into the spine, going up the neck, noticing the throat, going down the arms, all the way out into our fingers. And then up into the head. Noticing your facial structure. How each bone is in perfect alignment. And if something feels like it's not in alignment, imagining it adjusting itself. Okay, on your next inhale, you can ask yourself this question, which is not my question, but it's a really good one. How do I connect to pure source even stronger? Okay. We're going to leverage the power of the group on this one. So that everybody that listens to this, we're just going to connect in with them. And leverage the collective momentum that that brings. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, group one, let's see what's going on for you. Okay, so for this group, it feels like you do a yo-yo. So you go from like one level to another level, and then it's like back and forth, but it's like two distinct levels. And basically what you'd like is to break out of that so that it removes like the earnings cap from your life. It feels connected to a sister energy. So sister energy could be your actual biological sister if you have siblings. Could be sister from a past life. Could be a friend that has a sister energy. It could also be a brother if your brother has more of a like feminine essence. So the thing for you to move towards is just like breaking off the ceiling so that your income isn't capped. It's like the difference between like working on commission with like no cap to what you could earn versus working hourly. It's like you're existing in that paradigm. You have those two levels and you just kind of bounce between that. I don't know, maybe you make like money through tips or something, or you get like a raise temporarily or more hours temporarily, and then it goes down. So that's the example if you have a job, but it could be something else too. Like if you have your own business, you just kind of bounce back and forth between two different levels. So it's like when it's good, it's here. When it's bad, it's here, but it doesn't open up to like all of this other possibility like above that. So what we want to do for you to raise your financial set point is to help you become like more unlimited. So you can go all the way up and you can go all the way down, but you won't be like fixed into like that yo-yo game. So let me see if I can figure out where that pattern started for you. So you could be in competition with a female sibling where one of you has that level or the other one of you has that level. So it kind of like alternates back and forth. So the way this works is like with that feminine sibling energy, it's like one of you has the high financial set point, one has the lower one. And then you'll switch like back and forth, but the two of you, it's like you're connected. So when one goes up, the other one stays down. When you go up, then they come down. But it just like, it always balances out. So you got this template from your parents. It primarily feels like the father. Could be either parent, but you knew like if we're doing well, we get these kinds of things, and you kind of like create, it's like you solidified that one reality. And if the father's not doing well, or that masculine energy of however the money was coming in, could be a female parent, especially if they ran a lot of masculine frequencies. It's like we had either things were good and they were up high, or things were low and that wasn't so good, but it was stable enough. The reason that you have the two is because it stabilizes it. It's like it's black or it's white. It's this or it's that. It's a lot easier to manage than it could be anything at any time. So that stability and security is what was your parents' intention to give to you. So then somehow you and your sister, or that feminine energy, could be a friend, could be sister from a past life, or that kind of thing. It's like you're still just doing that to balance things out. Creates like this equilibrium, so it's not too destabilizing one way or the other. It's like you're entangled with your sister to do the complementary thing when it comes to money. So let's see if we can help you remove that. I'll also ask your sister's higher self if it's okay for me to work on her through you. I won't do that unless I get her permission on that level, so I'll just do that. Okay. Okay, I'm getting the etheric thumbs up, so I'm going to go with it. Okay, so for the majority of the people listening to this, they're like no longer living with the parents, or you're kind of like old enough to the point where you have like your own life. There may be some people listening to this that are younger, but for the majority of the people, it feels like you're out kind of like on your own, doing your own thing, have your own life, and you don't need to create that sense of equilibrium. Now that you're older and you've moved on, it's like you really don't need to do that. So that's what I'll help you let go of. So let me see why we were running that pattern in the first place, because any bad patterns that we're running or unwanted patterns that we're running, those are all solutions to things that were way worse. So they're always an improvement on what was there before. So let me figure out if I can pinpoint what was going on there. Yeah, it just feels like marital conflict between your two parents. Yeah, so just chaotic emotions, create equilibrium, each one of you solidifies at either reality, whether it's high financial set point, low financial set point. Just the two of you are like the same way that you counteract each other with money to balance and create that equilibrium. You're basically trying to do that with emotions, and that pattern just kind of like copied into your finances. So yeah, I totally understand this pattern because, let's say your parents go through a divorce. It's pretty natural for if one of the children sides with one of the parent, the other one sides with the other parent, and then you're constantly trying to do this to create that balance and equilibrium. And then it's like you actually, like, you have to like disagree before you even really hear what the other person has to say, because it just doesn't feel right to have both of you be on one parent's side. It's like it just doesn't feel good inside of yourself. So that's what's going on financially. So you might have even had that where one parent made a lot of money and the other one made a little bit of money. So then you're just like swapping back and forth. I keep saying it's like a sister energy because it's more of like a feminine, more emotionally aware pattern. It still could happen through like a brother or something like that, especially if they have that more sensitive, emotionally intelligent side. But for the majority, it feels like a sister thing. So I'm just going to help you kind of get some separation from whatever the conflict was. It doesn't have to be like it was a divorce that your parents went through, but just like that emotional turmoil where, one was high, one was low, and then you sought to create equilibrium. It's like you and your sister teamed up, and now you've ingrained that pattern and you're holding onto that pattern so tightly that like you both have to switch. You switch off on each of the levels, and then that stops you from going to those like higher levels of finances. So back then when you were younger and you're trying to create that stability, well, you may have thought you were trying to create that for your parents or for the family. Ultimately, this is something that you're doing to help yourself out, to help yourself get through that. Through a partnership, you could like create something that was sturdy and steady, and way less like emotionally draining. So it's like the two of you kind of made it through that experience together. So now you're just like, you continue to run that pattern. You're like, oh, well, let's just try this in a couple other areas of my life. So I'm just going to help you release that. So if you're ready, take a deep breath in. Hold. Let go. Just a note, the less emotionally close you feel with this sister energy, the stronger this pattern is probably going to be for you. So if you two like don't talk or whatever, like you'll be holding on to this pattern really, really tight because it keeps you together. So if you two are actually pretty close, this pattern won't have as much of an effect on you. I'm just separating you two out. parents, they really need my support, they need my help. That's just coming up because if you feel that way, then you'll keep trying to do this, and it gives you like an illusion of control over the situation. Like no matter if you did a perfect job creating that equilibrium or you did a horrible job of creating that equilibrium, the emotional turmoil was still going to be there. Didn't really have anything to do with you. If you want to keep hanging out in that space, you're more than welcome to. It'll still feel like I'm working on you, but just so you know what to expect as a result of that energy healing you just did, you're going to start noticing how beautiful your sibling is. Like you'll see them in their brilliance. So the two of you, your energies were just kind of like merged, and like it's like you're leaning on top of each other for stability. So I pulled you out. So like now you'll kind of behold one another, and you'll be able to respect the brilliance that each of you is, and removing some of that like very, very discreet subconscious codependence from each other for that emotional equilibrium that you accomplish through your finances. So yeah, you'll just both see each other. There'll be more appreciation for one another, which is going to be cool. Yeah, hopefully this helps them as well, and hopefully it just helps you step into a better financial experience where you can make a lot more than you've ever made. It's not like magic, you still have to do stuff, but hopefully this will remove the pattern that was keeping you locked into those two different financial set points, and this will open it up so you can have a whole range of new financial set points and make you feel a lot more abundant. Thanks so much for hanging out, Group 1. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing with a friend, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, Group 2, let's go ahead and see what's going on with your financial set point. Okay, so with this group, it feels like your financial set point, it just keeps slipping. It's like the picture that I had with someone like climbing up a mountain, and then they just like keep slipping, and then they slide down, and then they slide down. So that's probably your experience around finances, where it's like you get to a level and you stabilize for a little bit, and then you slip, and then you're like, okay, that sucks. And then you're like, it'll go back up soon, and then you slip again, and it just feels like it's constantly... You're just constantly like slipping down from one financial set point to lower and lower and lower and lower, which is gotta suck. So sorry about that. So let's see what's going on and how come you got that pattern going. So this one comes from savings. So I'll use a relationship metaphor to explain basically what's going on here. What you have to do is you have to create some level of savings. So you might save money, you might not save money, but you have to be able to create some savings. And it doesn't matter if it's as small as like $1 a month. You have to do some level of savings and putting money aside, because what this does on a spiritual level, it's like, hey, I'm worthy, I deserve things, I get to exist here. by saving, kind of kick yourself into gear, and you're like, it's like you're making your presence known. The point is that you're doing that as a way to acknowledge yourself. So a really good example of this, and I'll use the metaphor of relationships. Let's say you're always doing stuff for your partner and you're never ever doing things for yourself. Every single thing you do is just for them and just for them and just for them. Eventually you grow bitter, and then you kind of lose yourself into the relationship. You're in this relationship with them, but you're not really there. There's no you there. So you have to, in the same way that in a relationship, you take time to be with yourself, even if that meant just like going out on a walk by yourself or like checking in with yourself. Like you have to do that kind of thing to stay healthy in a relationship. You got to pay yourself something, because then it's like saying like, I exist, my identity's here, I deserve to exist. And from that, then you'll stop like sliding down, because it's almost like the sliding down is in proportion to like how your identity is just like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So what you want to do is, by saving, even if it's like $1, you're just like, no, this is me. And even if you save just like $1 a month, it's like, then it goes up to here, then it opens up to here, and then it opens up to here, and then you start expanding yourself out. And then the higher parts of you kick on and go like, oh, whoa, this identity wants to be here and wants to expand. Okay, let's help that. Let's make that happen. Let's guide them through different things that are going to help them, broaden themselves into the world, which is probably how you feel about having like your financial set point slipping all the time. It just kind of like shrinks your life and makes you feel smaller as a person. So by saving something, no matter how small it is, when you do that, you start expanding yourself out. So then what I'll do is I'll help you install patterns around saving, so savings doesn't feel like such a drag or a bummer or a letdown or impossible to do. I know exactly what it feels like to feel like there's just, I wish I could save something, but there's nothing to save. Like, you can absolutely save at least $1 each month. Even if you're in debt, even if you're working through other stuff financially, but you have to do this because it signals to that higher part of you, like, no, my identity is here. It deserves to be taken care of. It deserves to have resources put into it. And then you start expanding yourself out. And then you can feel like really good about it. Even if you feel like, well, I wish I could save more money, I wish I had more to put in here, then you can still feel good of like, I'm standing up for myself and my right to be here. Let's go ahead and see where this came from, because any negative pattern that we're running was brought on with a positive intention behind it. So we can't install a new one until we come into peace and serenity around the old pattern that now is obsolete, but for a time served us. So we have to figure out how it served us. Otherwise, we won't be able to let it go. And just in case anybody's curious about that, why that happens, I was speaking with a client about this the other day, about that woman, Marie Kondo. She wrote this book, this amazing book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I think that's the title. And in it, she talks about people letting go of their stuff. And she basically helps people that are like hoarding all their possessions and they can't let go of their stuff, and then they have like a really messy house and it's ruining their life. Basically, it's a physical representation of what's going on for them spiritually. And in the book, she talks about how to get ourselves to let go of things. So one of her tricks is, when you're getting ready to throw something away, you don't convince yourself that this is like this horrible thing, this useless thing that you always hated, that you don't want to keep anymore. You don't need this shirt. It's a stupid shirt. You've hated this shirt. Like, this shirt's just taking up room in your closet. If you go to let go of that shirt with all that negativity and anger and judgment against it, as you go to throw it away, it feels bad and it feels hard, because there's part of you that knows like, oh, like this shirt is one that I wore, 5 years ago on my first date with this one woman, and that was like so special. And, it just doesn't feel right for you to let go. So what she does to help people let go of things is, when you're getting rid of something, you've made the decision to either throw it away or donate it to somebody else and, give it a new life, as she puts it. Just, you hold the piece of clothing and you thank it. And you go, thank you, shirt. I really appreciate all the things we've been through. and then you can let go, and it makes it a lot easier. So same thing happens with our patterns. If we want to let go of an old pattern, no matter how frustrating it is, no matter how outdated and how it is no longer serving us, we have to come into a sense of peace about it so that we can appreciate everything that it did give to us. Otherwise, it messes us up going forward. So let me see that slip-in pattern, where that came from, so that we can see if you can make some peace with that, so then we can install the new one. So I just got a metaphor, so here you go. So it's like somebody on a deserted island, they write SOS, and then they're like sending that through Morse code. They're just saying SOS, and then they're hoping that someone is checking the radio to like hear SOS. So then what the other person sends back to them is the message SOS. So then that person that originally sent out the broadcast of SOS, which means like come help me, they just get the message of SOS, come help me, and then they don't know if that's, somebody else on the other side going like, yes, we hear that you are saying that you need help and we're going to be right there. Or they don't know if that's just their own message echoing again. And so they don't even know if somebody is paying attention. So it's like you're sending SOS out and then you hear SOS back. What's trying to be communicated to you is like, yes, here's the problem. You keep slipping. So you're like, I'm slipping. And you hear back, I'm slipping. I'm slipping. I hear back, I'm slipping. And then you go, oh, okay, like let me slip some more. But really what's trying to go on is whoever you're entangled with feels more like a mom thing. What mom is trying to communicate to you when you're slipping and you send that emotional message to her, she's saying like, oh yeah, you're slipping. That's a problem and we need to fix that. But you're taking that as like, okay, just slip again. It's just getting lost in translation. So let me clear up the communication channel between the two of you so that you feel like you're in more sync, primarily with your mom. So then what's going to happen is you won't have that communication mismatch. And then you'll say, I'm slipping. And then your mom's going to say like, okay, save $1. So then like the messages, it starts actually becoming conversation instead of redundant, confusing stuff getting lost in translation. So all of that is emotionally going on underneath the surface out of your conscious awareness. That's why no matter what you try to do consciously, you can't get out of that. Don't beat yourself up for not having figured that out. That's pretty confusing. So let me just work on that so that you start coming into better communication with the mother energy that you're entangled with, so that it becomes a conversation instead of an echo chamber. Some of us are wondering like, well, why do I need my mom to help me with my financial set point? So our mother can be a source of nourishment. It's just like where our resources come from. So we can get imprinted very early on with like the relationship that we have with our mother is how we expect resources to come to us in the future. So if you have a confusion pattern, a lost in translation pattern going on about your basic nurturing, and you copy and paste that pattern into your finances, you will end up with your experience of finances that you have going right now. I'm just going to clear up that communication channel so that the two of you are much more on the same page. And then you'll, even if you experience this in talking about other things, like all the confusion, that's going to go away. You'll feel like you understand what one another's saying, like even in texts or phone calls or emails or social media, like you'll feel a lot more on the same page instead of having that communication breakdown. So I'm just going to work on that. So if you're ready for that, go ahead, take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold and release. I'm just going to work on you in silence. So as you release this pattern, you're going to get reacquainted with your mom, which is going to be a pretty fun experience. It's going to feel like you're meeting her for the first time. Not in a way that freak you out, but like you're going to see all kinds of new sides of her, and that's going to really increase your relationship with her. So enjoy that. And yeah, as that happens, then you'll copy and paste that pattern into your finances, and then you'll see your financial set point start to increase. So if you enjoyed today's healing, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing with a friend. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye. Hey, group 3, let's see what's going on in regards to your financial set point. So the first word I get for this group is dumbfounded. You're in like a whole new stratosphere, and that could either be a lot higher than what you're used to or a lot lower than what you're used to, but you're very surprised and like disoriented by that experience. It's like you don't know the names of things. It kind of feels like being put into a different country where you don't understand the customs, you don't understand what you call things. Like there's all the things that kind of get lost in translation. So like the money is different, the names that people call things are different. There's all this stuff that's like super different than what you're used to, which is like leaving you in this overwhelmed space. So this could be either you could have like very high finances right now, higher than you've ever had before, or you could have very low finances. But either way, it feels like you're in this whole new world financially, and you're trying to like get reoriented around it and kind of like get your bearings straight, and you're having some trouble with that. So here's another metaphor to describe how you feel. You just kind of feel out of place. Back in the day in England, when they would have like the royals that were inside the house or like in the estate, and then you'd have the townspeople or everybody else that lives on the estate and pays rent to like the earl or the duke or the whatever. If one of those people just came in and then they were like supposed to eat and have dinner with all the wealthy people, then basically they'd feel super out of place because they don't understand that like, oh, there's 7 spoons over here on this table setting. Like, I don't know what's the difference between a teaspoon and a appetizer spoon and the main spoon, a soup spoon. It's just like, it's so much stuff. It's so much overwhelm of like, whoa, I'm in this new world and I don't understand how anything works. So then you're just kind of like frozen in a state of overwhelm. Let me see how this is actually directly affecting your finances. So as you've entered that overwhelming whole new world of finances, you're having a really hard time getting organized and getting streamlined where your finances are making sense. It feels like it's kind of random, like money pops up here and then it goes away there and then it pops up here and then it goes away there, and you're having a tough time like orienting yourself and feeling stable and secure. So right now you're in a fine spot. Like you will figure this out whether or not I help you with any streamlining through this energy healing. But like if it becomes too much for you, then what you'll do is you'll just go back to the old way. And the old way feels like it's more, there's a lot more struggle in it, limitation and lack in it. So you might just be like, this is all too confusing. Let's just go back to the simple way of how it was. But you're not at that point yet. It's just like, if you don't figure it out, and if it continues to be this overwhelming for you for, like, it's tough to put times to it, but like, whatever you would call a medium amount of time, if you don't figure it out by then, and if the overwhelming feelings sustain themselves for that long, then you might go back to a former life. So you just want to stay in this place, and you're already doing good. Let me just help you kind of fine tune a little bit so you don't feel as overwhelmed, and then you start getting a little bit more stable, a little bit more structure, so that you start to feel more comfortable. Like you understand, like, okay, there are 7 spoons that people eat with, and you start from the outside, you work your way inside, and then you do this one, and then this one, and then this one's called the teaspoon, this one's called the tablespoon, this one's called the soup spoon. And you don't have to like know every single thing, but it makes it so it's like, okay, this is manageable. I understand there's 7 spoons I'm gonna have to learn. It's like getting an outline of all the things that you need to learn in order to sustain this level without feeling overwhelmed. You don't have to go through and learn each thing to the level of depth that you have been plopped into. You don't have to learn that all at once just to like maintain your level. But if you start getting the outline and you like, okay, this is everything that I need. It's kind of like a study guide for an exam. It's like if I have the whole list of all these things that I need to learn, and there's just 7 sections, and in each of those 7 sections, there's 3 parts each, and in each of those 3 parts, there's 5 things. So it's like, okay, I understand the big picture of what's going on here. I understand how this world works, and then I can go kind of step by step and go through and work through the details of that and get organized. So if you do that, then that's going to make you feel a lot less overwhelmed, which will help you sustain this new financial set point, especially if it's one of the higher ones. Now, if it's one of the lower ones, this is still beneficial for you because this just helps you understand like, okay, this is all the things that I need to learn. And then it creates a structure so then you can start progressing through it, and then that overwhelming feeling goes away. It's like you look at all the different things you have to learn and you go like, okay, I finally know all the things that I don't know yet. And that's very stabilizing for you. So with this group, even if you don't do this, you're still probably going to be okay. I'll just help you fine tune a little bit and take some of that overwhelm out, so that I'll just like kind of take off the first little bit of that. So then you can step back, get the outline, and then you can work with it in your own way. So let me see what this pattern's connected to and like how you took it on originally, because it was a solution to something that was even worse, which is why you're running the pattern in the first place, even if it's obsolete now and you want to upgrade it. Let's see. It's kind of like there's a train and then you just kind of pushed your way onto the train and you got into the train. So it's like, you know, they're like all aboard, and then you got your bags and everything, and everyone's like trying to make it onto the train. What you just did is you just kind of like pushed your way in, and now you're inside the train, the doors closed, it started driving away, and you like made it in and you got all your luggage in, and it wasn't the most graceful entrance into this new financial set point, but you got on. So you're a little bit disoriented and you're trying to figure out, okay, what are the names? How does all this stuff work? How do I go through this new world? You know, where's my seat? And where do I go? All that stuff. But you got the important part done already, which is just getting on the train. So that's really good. So yeah, thankfully you had the presence of mind or the presence of spirit to nudge you to like, hey, you got to get on the train. The train's leaving the station soon. Where a lot of other people have missed that opportunity. You took advantage of it and you got yourself on. Well done on that. So yeah, being a little bit disorganized, but getting on the train, that was the pattern that you were running. So like, yeah, you're a little bit disorganized in how you got to this new financial set point, but at least you're on it. It's really good that you understand, like, I know what I need to learn. So the difference is for you, it's like you're in a college course and you have the lessons plan, you have the syllabus, you have the book that you need to read. They already told you like read these, 20 chapters this semester, and like that's what you have to do. The difference is you being in that class versus you just like, not being in school and like not having any idea what you have to do in order to increase your financial set point. If like a lot of the concepts come to you really easily, or if they're difficult for you and it's just going to require some extra studying for you to be able to get to that higher level that you want to be at, the most important part is like you're actually at the school, you're actually enrolled in the class, you actually have the books. Like all of that stuff makes it so much easier for you to learn than if you just were kind of like wandering around and you had no idea where to even start. That's why you have this pattern of it being a little bit disorganized, because you're just like, I'm getting on that train, I'm getting into that class, I'm in, and I'll figure out the details later. So that's actually like a really good pattern. Yeah, a bunch of you probably run your own business too, and you use it there as well. All right, so let me just do some of that fine tuning so you can turn the overwhelm down so that you can step back, get the clear picture, and then you're like, okay, cool, now I know what to do. And I can go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I'll get there. If If you're ready for that, go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold at the top of the breath. Release through your mouth. And then I'll just start working on everybody. Just a little reminder for this group. It's not like I'm healing you, you're healing yourself. Just like a guitar. If they're both tuned to the same frequency and then you pluck one that's calibrated to a certain frequency on one side of the room, the other one starts vibrating. If they're both tuned to the same frequency and the vibration is strong enough, it's not like the first guitar is making the second guitar play. Like the second guitar is producing its own sound, but like it's kind of just getting it's like getting a little kickstart into it making and generating its own sound. So that's basically what you're doing when I'm doing this work. So you are helping yourself. Just felt important to mention. Clearing out the pattern like I need to make it to I made it. So I can relax for a second. So at the end of that, I was just helping you connect in with your higher self a little bit more. So you might have more guidance or intuitive awareness coming into you. Even if you like go through something where it's like a physical scare, like a physical safety thing, not like a huge thing, but like, if you're like driving and somebody swerves into your lane for a second, what'll happen is you just feel the presence of your higher self right there for you. And that aspect of you guides you and then keeps you safe. Like that's going to help you feel a lot closer. So not saying like something like that has to happen, but just in case it does, the reason behind that is so that you can feel the presence of your higher self right there with you, right there tuned into you. That's going to help guide you throughout this process so that as you start getting more streamlined and further down the road with getting more organized and able to understand this new stratosphere of financial set point that you're in, you feel supported and guided throughout the process. So it's not just like you on your own trying to figure it out. It's like somebody having a study guide, but then they also have a tutor that's like there to help and make sure that, you learn everything. So if you have questions, then you can, interact with your higher self and that kind of thing to guide you so that all along the journey that you are in the right place. So that's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed today's pick a reading, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. And I'll see you next time. Later.